Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another special edition of the Victor Light Radio Show. I'm your host, Rob Potter. We're going to have Cobra on just a minute. As usual, I always give a little preemptive in all my radio interviews, a little update on what's going on. I am going to be moving to Maui on November 1st. I have a plane ticket. I'll be staying over there and looking for a place in Haiku. If anyone's out there and interested, has a place to rent, let me know. I will be joining the Aku Television public broadcast station there and having my own a television station with 3 HD TVs and a green screen. Looking forward to creating some good updates there and sharing some information not only about products but about spiritual awakening and the latest updates on the planet there, moving to a more television-oriented venue. Also got a few new things on my website I'd like to announce. One, we do have the date for the last weekend in February. I'll be joining Louis Martin, the UFO contactee brother who has been working for many, many years in contacts with the Pleiadians, Tau Ceti, and the Venusians, as well as the Agarthan Network and the Great White Brotherhood. He has been inside the Temple of Purity in the Great White Brotherhood retreat in the Olampu Mountains in Bolivia for 3 days and wrote a book about it called 3 Days in the Abbey of the Seven Rays. I highly recommend you get that book on my book page. There's a slider banner for it. You want to look that up. It's quite reasonably priced. Also, there's a book called Runa Antilles, Magical Base of the Andes, which details his jump to the Jupiter portal Ganymede artificial moon of the intergalactic cosmic guides and his experience there with the Master Morlan and near the Crystal City there. Some amazing revelations from Louis' work. Those of you who are more into the spiritual aspect of contact than the, I guess I'll call it the political and sociological infrastructure changeover that's taken place. For those of you who are seeking the spiritual light and the inner work of connecting to the Christ consciousness, Louis Martin stands alone as one of the greatest contactees of the South American modern-day era. And it's an honor to have taken 2 groups to Bolivia, which were fantastic. And he's coming to Hawaii. If we get enough people there, I know it's a long way. We aren't covering any things. It's a very cheap event there. I think it's like $150, $170, including lunch for 2 days there. So I think you might want to take advantage of that and come to a solar activation up on Haleakala Crater with Louis Martin and myself. If you're going to miss that one, we are going to be in Shasta at the last weekend of July. I have reserved the Mount Shasta conference location on top of the hill, and if all goes well, we'll be up there and be doing some activations on top of the mountain this year, sanctioned by the Forest Service. We're working on getting that straightened out so we can get that done. Also, Louis' books, he has 3 other books that have not been translated into English. I'm going to make a reach out again to anyone who can speak Bolivian Spanish, who knows someone who might be a translator willing to translate Louis' books from Spanish into English. This is a paid position, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from any light workers out there who want to help Louis out and getting that done. I want to try and facilitate that. I think Louis' information is incredible, profound, and the planet needs to hear it. This is about what is called the externalization of the inner retreats of the spiritual brotherhood so that we can come forward and have meeting places to meet with the Agarthans as well as our cosmic guides. They will be landing and giving teaching and training sessions in various locations. For those who are interested in this contact, Louis' work is actually to prepare people energetically and psychologically for these contacts and what it means, and that's what Louis' work is about. So anyone who wants to help out with Louis doing that, we greatly appreciate it. As always, I must thank Ricky Serafico for taking care of this audio and modulating Cobra's voice and putting together such a nice package. And of course, Danelle Glade, who does an excellent job in transcription and is always greatly appreciated for her kind service. The gentleman in China named Sam, is all I'm going to say, who does do some of the final edits. We got to go back and forth a little bit, but eventually he gets a final edit up there and does a great job. I want to thank him for his kind service as well. I wanted you all to know several things. The first thing is that I appreciate all of your contacts, all of your support in purchasing the product I do work very hard here and not really into the business aspect, folks, of running a business. I've always been a healer in my life and career. For the most part, I meditate, get into the zone, and I've always done advanced kind of healing with my hands, kind of the laying on of hands and a deep tissue work for most of my life. The transition to this new kind of position is something I've thought about for many years, and I'm happy to do it, but it's not really my cup of tea sitting at the computer too much. But as a result of doing that, I've had to create and kind of mimic Dr. Fred Bell, and I'm happy to do it, to be selling his products in the pyramids, as well as my favorite items, the crystals, the lasers, the Tesla coils, and of course all the other healing. The Sintamani products are really cool. I want you all to know I do have a gentleman from Thailand who has contacted me and has a jewelry shop. Really happy if you go to the slider banner or look under Sintamani rings and pendants. He has created some rings which are available. We are taking orders right now. The prices are up. You can make an order, send us your ring size, and they'll be to you. They'll size the ring for you and ship it directly to you from Thailand. Got some really nice stuff there. It's all silver, plated in white gold. It's going to be very nice. And the Sintamanis will be faceted. So that's something we're doing. We're also faceting some Sintamani stones for those of you who want to make your own jewelry. Those will be available probably within a month or so. In the meantime, I have some Sintamani pendants that have been completed by a friend of mine from high school who's done a nice job in creating a setting for the Sintamani stones that you can wear around your neck. Picked out some nice specimens of the larger variety for you to check out. These larger pendants are silver cast, and I know a lot of people lose them, and this is a great way for you to keep the Sintamani stone to you close. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually related to the Tiffanys of the jewelry fame, and so it's kind of interesting that I find myself now going into jewelry and sacred stones and this type of energetic thing, but it's something that I really do believe in and enjoy. We do have the light watch, which has been getting quite a bit of rave reviews. People are really enjoying that. And of course, the violet wand technology, which goes hand in hand with the Sintamani stones on the body to activate and help you to connect to your luminous light body. So I appreciate all the support we've been receiving in these different products, and although we're almost out of Sintamani stones for regulars, we are going to have some of this jewelry available, and I thank you all in advance for your kindness and supporting us, my work, and those people who have offered some donations. Every penny goes to the webmaster, Ryan, who helps me out. He's done a great job, created my site, created PFC. He doesn't really like doing too much internet stuff. I'm actually looking for a qualified internet provider who can maybe rework my site entirely. I'm open to that. I'm looking for people to contact me, light workers who might be interested in that, maybe moving forward with that in the near future. Contact me through my website or at rob@thepromiserevealed.com. And all my sales now are running through Mount Shasta. I have a very capable lady who helped me in my Mount Shasta conference, Tracy Houghton. She's doing a great job getting things organized, and we're almost buttoned down on all the shipping and sales. For those of you who have not received any shipments, please be patient. They should be on the way very shortly if they aren't already out. We've had over 150 orders, I think, on the free stone, so it's taken quite some time to get all this out. Once again, I appreciate you listening to the mundane aspects of what I'm talking about here in my personal and business life, but it does help me keep going and continue in my service. I thank you all. Victory to the light. Here comes Mr. Cobra. So, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another special edition of the Victory Light Radio Show, the monthly Cobra interview, taking place today on October 21st, 2015. The world is going through these tremendous downloads of information, and things are coming out, and as always, it's wonderful to be speaking with my good friend, emissary of light, Cobra. Welcome to the show, Cobra. How's it going?
Thank you for the invitation. It's a very intense and very interesting time period right now.
Yes, things are moving along quite a bit. Gosh, where to start? I think I'd like to start with some of your posts that you've had out. You talked about the hitting the mainstream of the Khazarian Mafia thing, which originally was released through a Pleiadian named Hatan, through a woman named Darba in what is called the Phoenix Journals. Many years ago, he exposed the truth of the Khazarian Archon invasion. Can you talk a little bit in regard to this, in what the veterans today of this information hitting mainstream media means for us all? Question is, what does this information in regards to the Khazarian Mafia mean for the population now that it's hit mainstream media? What do you think is going to be taking place here in regards to the human awareness population on the surface now that Veterans Today is talking about ISIS being created by the United States and Israel?
I would not call that ISIS. This is simply, I would refer to that entity as the Islamic State. This is number one. Number two, the awareness of the background of this situation was always here. It is now simply reaching the critical mass, which means that many people who are in positions of power that were not aware of the background are becoming aware of the background. And of course, this only gives more support to the Eastern Alliance worldwide for their operations.
Okay, some people say that I've had it confirmed today. I talked to a military guy. He said that the United States carrier force has left the Gulf at this time to kind of stand down. Some people say that Obama is actually kind of secretly working with Putin along these lines. Do you have any comments along those lines?
I would put it differently. I would say that the positive military of the United States is in contact with Russian high military command. And of course, as you know, the positive military of the United States was always against the cabal and always opposed what was happening. So this alliance is not new. This alliance is here for quite some time. And this alliance is not public yet, but certain actions that you can see right now, and there's more of them that you will see in the future, will be able to confirm that alliance.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's something we've kind of felt, a lot of us, that the good guys are kind of working together behind the scenes. Another interesting thing you reported recently, that the Chinese yen is included into the SDR basket of currencies. That kind of is a major change, preparation for revaluation and the global currency reset under the event. Would you agree?
Yes, exactly, because the plan was always for the reset to include Chinese yuan and perhaps even some more currencies. So this is a step in the right direction. Some people feel that this is a step towards a globalized planetary cabal government, but that's not true. There is a lot of fear-based propaganda out there regarding the situation, but in reality, the light forces are behind this. And although the Eastern Alliance has been infiltrated by the Jesuits are not so strong anymore. They will not be able to do anything when the event happens.
Well, that's really good news. It seems as though there's a lot of misinformation in regards to how these dark forces work in concert. And I have a question here in regards to when you talked about the Great Forgetting and the Archon invasion. You mentioned that many of these reptilians have been reincarnating into human bodies. I'd kind of like to know if we know, or you know, or the Resistance knows, when these reptilians come here in human bodies, are they conscious of who they are, or they just have these matrix nanobite programs and they're just like normal humans but running a hostile alien agenda? My question is, are they aware, like light workers, we're aware that we feel like we're part of a spiritual positive effort, and yet we're not really card-carrying members. Some of us may have had some experiences, physical or non-physical, but many of us don't have the contacts that you have. I'm wondering, with these different groups of hostile reptilians that are incarnating into our system and find themselves in positions of power, are they consciously working with the satanic influence, or how does that work for them?
They have come to this planet in waves many thousands of years ago. The first entry was in the reptilian body, usually, I would say, through the jump rooms in various portals to subterranean bases throughout the planet. And then later incarnations, when they died that incarnation, they reincarnated again as a human being. It was still a reptilian, but had incarnated in a human body. And they have taken many of those incarnations after that in human bodies. They have forgotten, of course, like everybody else. They do not know consciously that they are reptilians. They are just being used as puppets by the Archons. And usually those reptilians tend to gravitate towards the most violent professions. Usually they work as mercenaries because this is their nature. They want to kill, they want to torture, so they are gravitating towards those kinds of professions. And many of those entities are now involved in the Syria crisis as mercenaries.
Okay, that's very interesting. And would there be a different group that's kind of attracted to the corridors of power? Would those be Dracos or?
Exactly. Many Dracos came, the same story, thousands of years ago in their Draco bodies, through jump rooms into the subterranean bases, and in subsequent incarnations they have taken human bodies, and today they are the Cabal, the Illuminati. They are Dracos incarnated in human bodies. And the top of them know that they are Dracos, and it's part of their, I would say, quote-unquote pride. They see themselves as a superior race. It's one of their so-called secrets, that they are not actually human. Actually, I think that Hillary Clinton just said recently that she's not human, actually.
Yeah, someone gave me a post. She said she was created in a garage in Palo Alto when someone said, "Why don't you sweat?" Now, I don't think it was in Palo Alto, maybe in Camp David, in the underground cloning base, but I know a lot of this is so very far out there for so many people. It really seems like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but my personal experience has led me down this path where I've had certain experiences, and I have to say everything, for the most part, that you say really makes sense along these lines, and I appreciate that. I've always kind of wondered the level of awareness of the people that are running these agendas. They're like a lot of us who are just kind of running their own programs. So at the point of the event, these beings also will be given a chance to turn towards the light?
Yes.
Very good. So it seems as though I wanted to jump to the Corey Good Honeycomb Earth interview. We were just talking a little bit privately beforehand. I wanted to ask some questions to you first, but I guess we should go back to Veterans Today, where Gordon Duff said that he believed Putin is working with the Tall Whites. And from my understanding, the Tall Whites are kind of a hostile negative force who've looked down on humanity, have been working with the government. There's a gentleman named Charles White, for those of you who want to look him up. He was a security guard, and he made some sort of minor, I guess, infraction, and they put a beam on him, one Tall White, and it slit his throat, and he almost bled out and died. The fact that he recovered and came back to work, they had respect for him. These Tall Whites carry a pen in their pocket that can stun you and can kill you by causing the marrow in your blood to bleed out. I kind of always saw them as kind of hostile, and I know for me, a group that just says, okay, we're of the light, we're turning to the light, seems strange to me. And you clarified a little bit, as I understood, there's a lot of misinformation in regards to Tall Whites and Nordics. Can you clarify the who Putin is working with and the difference between Tall Whites, Nordics, etc.?
Okay, Putin is working with the Pleiadians. Or shall we say Pleiadians are instructing Putin. Tall White is an umbrella term that is used differently by different groups. Some of the negative military people are actually making a confusion between the Tall Whites and the Blondes, and actually they think, when they say Tall Whites, they think Pleiadians. And there are some other people who describe Tall Whites exactly as the group that you have described. So there is a lot of confusion out there. In reality, Putin is working with the Pleiadians and not with the negative race that would be termed Tall Whites. And also that group that you have just described has gone through certain quite dramatic changes recently. They are now dedicated to the light also.
Well, that sounds pretty good. I'm kind of curious. I don't know. I mean, just thinking from a militaristic, earth-based terms, a group says, a stronger force comes in and says, okay, we're of the light. I mean, is this a conscious decision or a completely energetic soul transformation of an entire group of people?
If somebody is working for the light, it's a conscious decision, which is then manifested in conscious positive actions, and also a spiritual event, a spiritual transformation, a spiritual reality. It's a combination of both.
Okay. I feel like the Earth populace deserves a little hiatus and a little spiritual transformation too. Some of these guys have been working against us, hostile, all of a sudden they're on the good guy team. I guess it's just my ego and my personal thing, like, why didn't we get liberated first? They've been doing bad things. We've kind of been manipulated. Any comments on that human-based opinion?
Yes, unfortunately, Earth is the last one to be rated because it's a stronghold for the Chimera group, for the Archons, for the most powerful remaining negative forces at the moment. So the surface of the planet, people on the surface of the planet are the last to be liberated, and all the races that were not directly involved with planet Earth situation has received that grace already. So we are in a little bit of an unfortunate situation here on planet Earth.
Yeah, I guess that's an understatement. I sent you that article that someone had questions on, and I see you posted it. It was interesting that I guess they've found some star. I guess they're calling it WTF001, which means there's some sort of anomalies taking place. And I see there's an artist depiction of some sort of like giant human structure ring around this planet. Do you have any direct insider confirmation from the resistance to the nature of this planet, and if this image is in any way correct?
Yes, it is correct. Actually, I would say there are quite many stars like this, and there was a lot of censorship before for discoveries like this. And the fact that this discovery was allowed to be made public is a sign that the life forces are now stronger and are now actually behind the soft and not so soft disclosure. So there will be more and more announcements that will gradually increase in intensity towards the real disclosure. And what this star represents is actually a civilization that is quite advanced and has created a so-called Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere is I would say, a construct around the star which harnesses the energy of the star and acts as an interdimensional portal. It is something that extremely advanced civilizations can do. And this is not the only star like this in our galaxy. There are quite many stars like this, and more of those stars have been discovered. But as I have said before, all these have been suppressed and censored. Now that this information is coming out, it is a big step towards actual disclosure.
Well, so this is a construct around a star and not a planet, so...
It is not a natural planet, it's an artificial grid, you could call it.
So the construct, is this around a star or a planet?
It's around a star.
Can you give us any idea of the dimensions of that?
This is huge. This is really huge.
We're talking millions of miles?
I would say there are many smaller objects which create larger objects, and I would say at least hundreds of thousands of miles, if not millions of miles in diameter. It's a huge thing.
Wow, that's a superculture race, folks, that obviously has a very long lifespan and a very stable culture to create one of those. In human Earth terms, can you give us an idea of the time possibly exerted by a superculture using advanced technology to create one of these?
You see, when the culture begins to understand the basic spiritual principles of the light, the development of such culture is accelerated dramatically, and things like this, like a construct which is millions of miles in diameter, are nothing extraordinary for them because they understand the laws of creation, they understand the laws of nature, and they follow the light. So when a civilization is liberated from darkness and liberated from all limitations that arise from primary anomaly, huge things are possible, and this is just one example.
Okay, thank you. That's great. We're going to go into some of the regular questions from our followers. I have a few of my own we're going to interject in here, but there's some basic questions here. I know some of them you may have answered. Some people, are faithful followers and repeated questions. I feel like someone asked me the same questions a bunch of times. I kind of want to honor that people are asking them if they're not too out there. Someone wanted to know if you could talk about the sacred numerical codes in regards to the event. Is there anything involved in sacred geometry, math, and the timing of the event?
Sacred geometry is actually very much connected with the passing of cosmic cycles. So yes, the event is a moment of intersection of certain cosmic cycles. So when the right combination of energies which is related to those cosmic cycles appears, the event will happen.
Okay, thank you. We know not everything is engineered by HAARP and the Cabal, but is California drought, is there some aspect of the government manipulation in that?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Someone wants you to comment, and of course this goes back to Corey Good stuff, and this is based on Corey's information, and you and I hopefully will be having an interview with him soon. I believe Corey is sincere in his information, but according to one of the things is the group that of the Pleiadians that are posing as Pleiadians, Semyasi, is actually an ancient Earth-based civilization hiding from within the Earth. Have you had personal experience on going to the Pleiades?
I had a physical contact experience with the Pleiadians, and I can say for 100%, so the real, genuine Pleiadians originating from the Pleiades star cluster and are not subterranean Agartha network breakaway civilization. You can spot the difference between the two from miles. It's very simple. So the Pleiadians are Pleiadians and the Agarthans are the Agarthans.
I would agree with that, and Dr. Bell actually did go to the planet Lyra, folks, and so he's been to the Pleiades. Also, in my conversation with Corey Good, he did mention that Valiant Thor comes from an inner Earth civilization. And as I said in the Michael Salla interview, I chuckled a little bit to Corey, but I believe Corey's sincere. I believe that's what he's told. And he's just reporting honestly and sincerely what he knows, what the secret space program knows. Cobra, would you agree that in the interaction with the secret space program groups, all 5 or 6 of them, all coming under the umbrella of kind of an Archon Draco reptilian umbrella, that when the Pleiadians or anyone was dealing with any of these groups, they were very, I would say, circumspect and very tight-lipped and very security conscious in regards to their interactions with any of these secret space program individuals throughout history. Would you agree?
To a certain degree, yes. Most of the secret space program groups that you have mentioned and Corey has mentioned were actually working on the umbrella of the Illuminati network. I will say it this way, the group that Corey termed as the United Nations Galactic whatever, that group is actually the one that was the most open to the Pleiadian contact, because some of the United Nations diplomatic personnel was in contact with the Pleiadians. And from my perspective and from the perspective of my sources, this was the most positive group of all the secret space programs. The so-called corporate program and the Solar Warden space program were actually two sides of the same coin that were actually created by the military-industrial complex with the unholy 4 at the top. So those groups were actually serving as a Trojan horse for the Draco invasion that happened in 1996. They were preparing the deep underground military bases for the Draco invasion. They were preparing infrastructure inside of the asteroid belt for the Draco invasion. They were preparing military warehouses on Charon, the satellite of Pluto. They were preparing certain things on Saturn moons back in the 1990s. But I would say, apart from the top commanding structure, Illuminati commanding structure, the super soldiers and other personnel within those military and corporate space programs were positive people in most cases. They were thinking they were defending the planet. They did not understand the whole agenda. And the Draco invasion and the Archon invasion in 96 was the main objective of Solar Warden and of the corporate space programs back in 96. Actually, the split between Solar Warden and corporate space programs happened after 1996. Before that time, they were basically one and the same.
Okay, so the split occurred, and obviously the Pleiadians and the super luminals from the higher dimensions observed that and knew that many of Corey's contemporaries were kept in the dark, compartmentalized, and they were reached out to and contacted. And would you say it's possible? Would you agree? Or do you know, is the Solar Warden program for the most part now converted and working with the light force?
A few things here. First, it was very hard for the Pleiadians and any other positive races to make contact with people within those space programs because, as you have said, all individuals in those space programs were heavily monitored and controlled. So there was not much contact made. There were some negotiations on the top level, but those negotiations were not successful. And then, after, I would say, 1999, when the resistance movement came to this planet, the resistance movement had a quite strong force inside of the solar system, especially the asteroid belt, and they were beginning a house-cleaning operation. They were clearing all those Illuminati structures throughout the solar system. And in the year 2012, the vast majority of this was cleared. So the so-called Solar Warden program, as we know it, did cease to exist in 2012. And whatever was remaining on the dark side was just small sections and fractures connected directly to the Chimera group. All the rest of the personnel and people, infrastructure, crossed over to the light forces, and the secret space program alliance that is now inside of the solar system is mostly working for the light. It's a positive alliance.
Well, that's good. That kind of confirms what Corey said. And, if we follow Corey, the 20 and back means they spent 20 years in outer space. There's no chance for contact on the Earth. They're always under heavy monitoring. So that makes sense. And it really is going to be quite a tale for the world to swallow when the Earth mainstream populace gets a handle on what's been happening, our spiritual natures, our luminous bodies, how these technologies are possible, and the ongoing battle that's been going on here for so long. Thank you so much for the information, Cobra.
Well,
Here we got some more questions here from people. Someone's wondering after the event, things free will being in position as much as someone says, look, I don't want to be here. I want to go into a higher luminal light, return to like a soul aspect. Will they be able to do that, or will they have to go through the normal process of assumption and awareness? How does that work for the average soul?
okay, after the event, many options will open, but they will open gradually. So at a certain point after the event, it will be possible to leave the planet. It will be possible to go to other locations. And the spiritual growth itself will be much accelerated because the veil will be removed.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more? I'd like you to kind of go over, I was reading in your post, you mentioned the plasma field implants are not as strong now. There's still some sort of activity. If you could clarify what that is. I know it's still connected to the toplet or the stranglet bombs, but could you talk a little bit about the influence of implants and how they've changed recently?
Okay, it is really that one aspect of implants has been cleared, but the core of the implants, so they are the core of, they are no longer black holes. They are now just rotating singularities, which means that they are not so strong anymore. But still, the veil, the network, the technology, the plasma, it's all there still. The veil is still there. So this has to go before the event happens.
Cobra, my follow-up question to that information is, a lot of people have been asking me in regards to implant removals. It seems like everyone's talking about it and selling it. There is no way to remove implants. This has to be done by a higher technology removing that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Actually, some techniques that people use can be beneficial to a certain degree, but people are advertising that implant removal is basically implant healing or implant situation improvement. People are not in position to remove implants.
Okay, good, because from my understanding, and the chambers that Dr. Bell and I created on the instructions of the Pleiadians, as I understood it, utilizing the Tesla coils, the crystals, the lasers, the pyramids, we were creating kind of like a little buffer zone that lowered the influence to the point where, as I understood it, their ships were coming into the building and interacting. And from my experience, I was taken out of my body actually on many occasions in these systems. Remember watching the Earth go below me, seeing the shade on one side of the Earth, the light on the other. I never got to remember a face, but I was always having a series of conversations. So for me, I feel like these systems and these positive zero-point technologies, they can mitigate and lessen the effects of implants. Is that correct?
Yes, but I suppose that your experience were before 1996.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because the implants now are not the same as the implants before 96. They have been drastically improved. It's much more advanced negative technologies, and that's why it's taking so long.
Okay.
But the implants before 96, we had technologies already on the surface that could remove them almost completely. What we have now is different because it's tied to strangelet bombs with plasma fields. It's a little bit a different situation now.
Yeah, we hear everything's gone through these colliders and stuff there. Is it possible for us to take a tour down there, like when no one's looking, throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing and cause it to explode? What's the story? It seems like the light forces be pretty simple to go in there and just to, they go in and they can stop nuclear power plants by, through advanced hyperdimensional technology, make a physical mechanics break down. Can't they do that with the CERN collider? Just make sure that it keeps breaking down in 5 or 6 places so it's never running?
Well, it is running to a certain degree, but it's far from dangerous. It's not as dangerous as people are afraid.
Okay, that's good to know. Now, we're speaking about technology. Someone asked, will there be any advanced off-world technology, or public landings before the event? And I guess this leads to the question of tests now. I'm very excited. Everyone's asking me questions. What do you think? Ask me to comment beforehand. And I say, I just pray and hope that it's real and that it works, and we have to wait and see. My question to you is, obviously some people have receiving these now. I'm very much looking forward to a light worker to get back to us. I'll make that offer now. If anyone wants to get back to Cobra and I, with your assessment, maybe you could do a video. You have a cache technology device if it works. What do you think about the cache device? Have you gotten anything confirmed about its efficacy, if it's real or not?
I know he was developing certain things. I didn't receive confirmation that he has successfully completed the device. So I will be convinced when, as you have said, people begin to give positive feedback. Yes, they have a device on there. They have bought a device, they have it at home, and it's working. Because when this happens, this will be an explosion. It will be a chain reaction of positivity. It will be a chain reaction of light. And when this happens, then of course we can provide Mr. Cash with dramatic distribution and production capabilities. But until that happens, we'll just wait and see.
Right, exactly. So they have been released. People are getting them, and I'm going to be very excited, and I'm certainly going to buy a device. They're $800. If it turns out someone's got a real one, I'm all over it like a Donkey Kong or something, I'm going to go through a bunch of these questions from people here, kind of, I may shoot in with some of my own in the end here, but we got to get through these, and we'll kind of let you bang these out as you see fit, Mr. Cobra. What are some of the things that beings from other positive light planets do for fun that aren't done here? Life forces do for recreation.
They enjoy walks in nature, they have parties, they create art, they listen to the music, basically similar things than here.
Okay, very good. And here's another one that we've asked many times, and I keep getting this one, and I ask people to just make their own way. There's a lot of good people out there who want to join the resistance. There's no formal card-carrying activity. Can you give people some suggestions? They very much want to work with the resistance movement. What kind of actions and things could people do to get noticed by the resistance movement to become part of the contact of the first wave, perhaps?
Okay, first, the resistance movement is not making contact with the surface population at this point. This is not possible. Second, the resistance movement will contact certain people at the time of the event, at the moment of the event, and give them certain guidelines how they can assist in the actual process of the event. And third, we are not searching for followers, we are searching for leaders. So each person needs to go inside and find inner guidance what to do. I am not here to tell anybody what to do. I am just releasing intel to make it easier for you to be informed, and then you are the one who needs to take a lead and decide what to do. People are always asking me, what should I do? How can I help? I am not here to tell you how can you help. You are the one who needs to go inside, find your talents, find your inspiration, find your inner power, and find the drive to do something.
Very good. That's my answer, too. I give the same thing. Someone asked a question about the Moldavite chalice, and they wanted to know if any facets are active yet.
Yes, they are.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? What is the effect of the facets on the Moldavite chalice that are activated? What is their influence?
Actually, this Moldavite chalice acts as a lens of the energy from the galactic central sun, and the facets which are active actually transmit that light, that energy, to that particular star person on the surface of the planet, which is actively doing his or her mission. So those facets are active to the proportion that the particular light worker or light warrior is awake and aware and active in his mission.
Okay, thank you. The Moldavite chalice is different than the Sintamani stones, correct?
Yes.
You said the planet was destroyed in the Syrian system. Can you talk about this destruction? Was it an invasion? Was it a negative thing? What happened? Was this a natural occurrence?
It was not an invasion, it was an experiment that did not go well. Syrians wanted to densify the planet from the etheric to the physical plane. They wanted to create a physical planet of joy, but because of the plasma anomaly, that process of materialization or densification did not go well, and the whole thing exploded.
Okay, so this was an inadvertent scientific experiment with an entire planet Was it populated at the time?
No, it was just a mass of matter. Actually, it was not a scientific experiment. It was their desire to create a physical planet of joy, and this project was not successful, actually.
Okay, so there wasn't an embattled planet. There's nothing. Thank you for that clarification. And approximately how long ago did that take place?
It was a few millions of years ago.
Okay. I have a question here. In some of my early visionary experiences as a youngster, in one of my out-of-body experiences, I saw all of these colors, and at some point in my experience, I actually recognized what they call the Rosy Cross or the Rosicrucian Cross. And I didn't really know what it was. It was some years later when I observed this metaphysical symbol that I recognized it from an inner plane experience. Can you talk about I guess is this a universal symbol? How was I able to access this vision of this symbol before I'd had conscious awareness of it?
Because probably in your past lifetimes you were part of the Rosicrucian network.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to know, what's the true meaning of the Celtic cross?
The Celtic cross is a very ancient Atlantean symbol which actually represents Mother Earth, Gaia.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's one. It says, there seem to be a huge amount of reptilians living amongst us, especially in the music and showbiz. Are they hybrid or incarnated reptilians?
Okay, most of the reptilians are not in the show business. They are mercenaries, as I have said. Those who are in the show business are mostly Dracos.
Okay, so those are, again, just following their lines there. So let's see, question number 5. What can we expect to happen to these reptilians or the Dracos at the event?
They will be given opportunities and choices to cross over into the light, and those who refuse to do that will most likely end up in the Galactic Central Sun.
Okay. Do we have any archons that have become positive and turned towards the light of the archon level?
Oh, yes.
Oh, really? So some of the most heavily dark plotting negative forces actually have turned to the light. Have they been back to the light, or are they simply on the motherships enjoying their healing?
When they were captured and transported to the motherships and to the locations, for example, to the Ganymede starbase, some of them have realized their wrong choices from the past, and now they're doing whatever they can to rectify them.
Well, that's really cool. There is redemption, folks, and you can have epiphany, even at the highest level of negativity. I guess I'll have to say Allah Akbar, God is great in forgiveness towards His creation. This is another thing that people want to know, and I think it speaks to the principalities of powers that we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but these hostile alien implants agendas. When the Dark Force has a plan and they want to work through a lower level Cabal or Draco reptilian member, people are wondering, how are these plans coordinated? Is there some master AI intelligence that's kind of feeding the implants in multiple groups of people towards an end, and none of them know what's going on and they're just kind of moving towards us? They want to know how it works. How does the non-physical negative beings get their instructions, and how does it kind of work?
The Master Chimera group, a small group, and Master Archon group, they are the ones who coordinate the plans, and they give input for those plans in their master computer, which gives possible solutions. So it's an interaction between actual beings and the AI computer network, which is called the Veil. But this computer network and this artificial intelligence is always subjected to the supreme will and decisions of those Archons and Chimera entities. They are the ones who make the decisions, and the actual implementation of those decisions is done through the sophisticated computer programs which create models of behavior of the masses, of the trends, of the most advisable course of action for those beings.
Thank you very much for that. It confirms my feelings. I talked to Alfred Lambermont Weber, and he believes it's like a cyborg thing like the Borg or some sort of computer thing that like Skynet or even the Matrix, where humans aren't in control. I firmly believe, as you just stated, that the artificial plasma veil technology is actually run by individual consciousnesses that are controlling that. So I appreciate you confirming that. Along those lines, if you could I get a lot of questions. Who's who? You got your Archons, you got your Jesuits, you got your the 300 Club, you got the Queen, you got the Cabal, Illuminati, the bankers, the reptilians, Draco, Chimera. Could you kind of take us up the food chain, kind of how we would see these groups? I guess you have your basic human influenced, and then it goes up from there. And at the top, you said that there are major archons that are working the veil. And are all archons Dracos or reptilians, or some of these are Orions and even Andromedans, correct?
The archons are not Dracos, they're not the reptilians, they are mostly negative Andromedans. Andromeda is a big galaxy, and a very small fraction of civilizations there went to the negative side, and they are the origins of the archons. And also the Chimera group came basically from the Andromeda galaxy. They went through the Orion portal, where you have some Andromeda-Orion hybrids there, but Dracos have always been subordinate to those people. They were not at the top of the food chain, and reptilians even lower.
Okay, thank you for that. Someone wants to know, this is actually Ricky, who wants to know in regards to the City of London, the Rothschilds, and the U.S. and Israel. They're all kind of interworking. There's really no one big leader or boss. Would it be possible to say that the Israelis are controlling the Vatican, or the Vatican's controlling the Israelis, or the Jesuits, or the banking, or the U.S.? They're all kind of like mix and match, isn't it?
I would say that the black nobility, the archons, controlling the Jesuits and the Knights of Malta, and they are controlling the Rothschilds, and they then branch to the Israelis, actually the Qatarian network, which is in Israel, United States, UK, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and there are various factions which change, alliances which change, and Chimera and archons are at the top, behind the scenes, controlling everything.
We had some questions about the top of the bonds. I just want to ask a real basic one here. Have they removed any of the Strangler top of the bonds at all? Any of them been dismantled or?
Oh yes, many have been removed.
Oh wow. Okay. Once all of them are removed, will this immediately activate the event?
Yes.
Very good. So that's kind of the final tipping point. When that mission is accomplished, the event can take place.
According to my intel, that's the last thing that needs to go.
Right. There's nothing else that could pop up in the meantime, but
it's always possible because I'm not God. I don't see everything, but according to my intel, based on my understanding, that's the last thing that needs to go.
Okay, I'm going to go into a Billy Meyer transcript, allegedly. I didn't all of his transcript notes verbatim. It says, this is Semyasi speaking to Billy, I believe. You have to understand that there are many races in the universe just waiting to destroy you. These beings are equally barbaric and cruel as you. They had already destroyed many worlds or people abducted into slavery. Now they want your world. We can only protect you as long as you keep up your galaxy. If you cross it, you have to prepare for what awaits you there. You have to be ready to fight or otherwise be ready to die. I'm wondering what your comment, that's very old information, obviously, Billy Meyer, probably circa 70s. Can you talk a little bit about, was that the situation back then? There were lots of different negative beings in the galaxy?
At that point, there were many negative races in the galaxy, not as many as some people try to portray, but there were quite many different races that were not of the light. Okay,
some people call the Islamic religion a satanic religion. I believe that, misinformation from, secular Christians or Catholics or Hindus or whatever. But Archangel Gabriel allegedly dictated that to who they would call not an ascended master, but a prophet, Muhammad. That was a real positive contact experience in its time. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk about, in the myth and our understanding of, we kind of get all these stories and stuff, and can you talk about Archangel Michael? Is he consistent? Could we call him congruent with the logos of the galaxy?
No.
He's not. Who is Archangel Michael?
Archangel Michael is one of the archangels, actually. There are many archangels which are angels which have come to a very high level of spiritual evolution. And he was quite in galactic work. He was creating protective barrier around the negative forces to stop the contamination of the galaxy.
Okay, can you talk about the logos of the galaxy? I had a conversation with Corey Good, and my understanding is the one we know as the Christ is actually the embodiment of the logos of the galaxy. He seemed to concur along those lines. and David Wilcock seems to have said the same thing. Can you talk about the logos of the galaxy? Could you confirm, or can you talk about that as being the Christ?
I cannot confirm that. Logos of the galaxy is not the being that some people term as Christ. There is a certain level of consciousness which is called the Christ consciousness, which is a reflection of the cosmic love that is manifested by the galactic logos, but the galactic logos itself is not the Christ.
The galactic logos in some circles, of course, your Rancha book, indicate that the being who is the galactic logos, or the responsibility of the creation of the galaxy, had to incarnate in various aspects for his own evolution, or her own evolution, or its own evolution through various dimensions, and one of them was on the physical plane, and of course the other 7 or 6 cosmic planes there. So
basically every soul that was born through the galactic central sun is a fragment of the galactic logos, and we have, I would say, millions of those souls incarnate now on the planet Earth.
Okay. I'd like to ask you a little bit more in regards to, can you talk a little bit about Yehoshua the Christ and what that means for, and who that being was, and what that mission was, and its cosmic thing, and in regards to the return of the Christ consciousness to this planet?
Actually, he came from the Sirius star system, and the purpose of that being was to anchor the energy of unconditional love and the energy of divine grace on the surface of the planet. He was the first one to introduce the concept of unconditional love, the energy of unconditional love, because that concept was virtually unknown on the surface of this planet in the cultures of that time. So it was a very important energy that was opened at that time. And this energy is the energy that will actually transform the planet.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't have enough time to go into that. We may touch on that again in another interview. I want to get through some of these other people's questions here. What are the causes of EMF hypersensitivity?
Simply on overload, because there is so much of electromagnetic pollution right now that it is more and more people are getting to the overload point. It is not people being oversensitive, it is simply too much of the pollution around.
Okay. Is there a possibility of an EMP device being used to take out electronic devices in any major city on the planet, or is that in control right now?
There is a technical possibility, but in reality the light forces will stop this.
Yeah, I agree. There was a follow-up question if that could cause nuclear war, but we all know that light forces will not allow that to happen. Are there any particular plans that are different from the general plan of the event to defusing tensions in North Korea?
The situation in North Korea is not good. Actually, this is one of the most distorted places on this planet, and there are certain plans underway that I will not talk about. There is a certain alliance. Okay, I could talk a little bit. There's an alliance. Certain dragon forces are working on this situation, but it's a tough problem, and I don't expect really this to change before the event.
Okay. Is there any particular technique in June 2012 about the veil? You talked about how it kind of gives you a foggy mind and a lack of focus, and a lot of people feel this, especially when they start to work on light projects. They seem to kind of lose their will and focus. I know it takes a time, but they're wondering if you have some suggestion of an everyday type of practice, if anyone feels the veil kind of giving a feedback to them, give them a foggy mind. What would you suggest? Is there any type of specific practice to help them focus and complete their intended intention for the light?
One thing that they can do is to spend some time in nature, because the veil is not so strong away from human population. The veil tends to concentrate when most people are so in larger cities. The concentration of veil technology is the most intense. So if you spend some time in nature, that will help you quite much. Also, energy of liquid water, running water, is very good to remove some of the veil's interference. Then you can have various more advanced technologies, vacuum technology, the violet ray, which diffuses negative plasma, and of course you have meditations, your own individual connection with your own higher self, and invocation of the light.
You mentioned in one of your posts about the Alliance wanting the light forces to get together and create something, and as you know, I did try to create a financial group there some years ago that we talked about. We got some people on board, but there wasn't the finances to create it. Getting a little more experience in some of these conferences, I wouldn't do it in Shasta, but I was thinking about maybe doing something in Los Angeles with a more selected focus than just a New Age circus there. Not that the different expos have a little more focus. Is there anywhere you'd recommend? I mean, like if we were going to get together, we could probably make offers and try to see if we could bring in some of the people who are focusing on the liberation of the planet. Would that be a good idea?
Yes, if people are on the top level, the leaders of the liberation movement, if they are willing to cooperate, that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. What is the shell or barrier of our universe?
It is actually the curvature of space-time continuum.
Okay, and someone asked what's out of our universe, obviously other universes, and it is possible to travel to other universes, correct?
Universes are part of the multiverse, and it is very easy to connect those because they share the same space-time unified field.
Yeah, okay. I thought that was kind of basic. I asked it because that person has asked it many, or some other people have asked it. Okay, can you give us a history of the Tower of Babel in the Bible?
It is actually a very old legend which describes certain events that were taking place in Atlantis with the fall of Atlantis, the losing Atlantis, and the fragmentation of Atlantis, because people went from Atlantis in legendary 12 directions to preserve the knowledge, and each of the 12 high priests that went to 12 different directions generated their own offspring that, of course, then changed their language from the original Atlantean.
Yes, and then as I understand, some of them were trying to, that had been taken over by the hostile forces, were trying to take some of this technology to reconnect to the higher heavens, and the Earth was kind of forced to be in quarantine, so it was kind of not allowed. Is that part of that as well as what you understand?
Not exactly.
Yeah, that information is kind of what I understood. Louis kind of confirmed some of that and said that they had destroyed some of their civilizations and technologies because they didn't want the bad guys to get them, kind of like a retreating army in a certain sense. Speaking of languages, what's going to happen with the future of Earth languages in the future? Do you think we're going to go to where we learn a universal solar tongue or a galactic tongue on Earth, or will we all become telepathic? I mean, this is over time, but what's going to happen to our communication languages in the future?
Actually, both. People will start becoming telepathic after some time. They will learn some universal language, and of course, they will keep their own native tongue also to a certain degree. So there will be a certain transition period where they will have all those things manifested.
I really appreciate this information. I got a few more questions I'd like to ask if you don't mind. So I found these interesting. I wanted, if you could talk about, we had this hybridization going on with the Greys and ETs actually in general, but I think mostly the Greys and the abductions. What's happening to these ET Grey abductions? Are they still being abducted and influenced? What's the real agenda between this hybridization? You know, what's the resistance doing about it? And just kind of give us an overview of what's going on with all these hybridizations and these half-gray human children.
Okay, this is almost over. This was happening a lot decades ago, but now this is not a problem anymore.
What's happening to the children here?
Some of them are living on the surface. Some of them were rescued by the light forces and have been transported to some places in the galaxy where they can heal.
All right, well, thank you very much, Cobra, and I'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of this as usual, but Cobra and I will be doing an interview conjointly with Corey Good if everything goes well, where Corey and Cobra can ask questions. This is still on the table, folks. Been waiting to hear from Corey on his finished thing. I'm going to reach out to him and get my interview and see if we can get this moving along as soon as possible. Till then, victory to the light. Thank you so much, Cobra.
Thank you, and victory of the light.